Hello everyone again. Thanks for coming back onto my channel. As I discussed at the last video I did, the most important thing, I talked about taking care of yourself, how that's number one, how, getting support by any ways, means that you can. And, like I said, I spoke to, when I was working with a counselor and a therapist, she was great. I really connected with her, and even though she was doing so well and she was able to help me with all my needs and questions and concerns, she still suggested that I went and attended these meetings that were meant for families, because she knew that it would still benefit for me, which it did tremendously. As I mentioned in my last video. So I kind of just went on like the basics of what the NarAnon family meetings are, and so I figured I probably should do like a separate video to kind of go a little more in depth of everything in case anyone has any questions or concerns. Briefly again, there are support groups for the people out there that are dealing with addiction that need that extra support as well. So there's the AA, NA meetings, the ones that I know of. And so they have support groups out there for the families dealing with loved ones or people they know that have addiction. And it's just that extra support that we do need. So before I kind of dive in, I just want to just mention that I am not affiliated with NarAnon or Al-Anon. I'm not like a member, like, where where I'm like a sponsor, just, anything like that. I'm not, I'm just coming again from my own experiences and how this program helped for me. So how NarAnon changed my life? Well, for one, the main one is it gave me the tools to get it back. That is like the main way that it did change my life, is that it gave me the tools that I needed that helped me get my life back. Most of us that have been on this path, journey, experience, however you want to phrase it, it can do a toll on you. It could do a number on you. And without that support that I received from this program, I couldn't imagine how my experience could have been any different. So I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful that, so I had no idea that there was anything like this out there. And so the fact that my counselor suggested it, and I just made it a priority to start going, because it did help. Just to kind of clear off some of the questions that maybe some have, that I know I had going in. I had no idea what to expect. I wasn't sure if, like, when you go into like the meetings, it was going to be like in a circle, and everyone's, you're going to have to say something, and it's not like that at all. It's like, if you don't want to share, you don't have to share. You could just sit there and be present. And I know a couple people that have told me that it took them several times to finally have the courage enough to share. And so it's not, some of them, some people just feel comfortable and they do it right at the go, and I know I did. I mean, I just had so much pain and so much, just so much grief, and it was just overwhelming that I did want to get it out. And that first time I sat in that meeting, hearing the other stories, sometimes it's a little difficult not to get emotional, hearing other people share. But once, like I did, it was just like, oh, here comes the tears. And I mentioned at the another video is that I was pregnant with our third child. It was my children's father that has addiction. And and those hormones and the emotions obviously contributed a lot during that time, and I just felt so defeated. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm just, go-getter, like strong, independent, and I remember people would tell me and just be like, you're so strong, you're gonna get through this, and I did not feel strong. I felt so depleted, so exhausted. So that's why taking care of yourself was very, very important for me. And at the beginning, and then actually able to share and express my feelings, because I'm just trying to stay strong for my kids at that point. So yeah, so you don't have to come in, they don't force you, you don't have to do anything like that. And so they do have some rules based off of, everything's private, everything that's said there stays there. We don't they don't give advice like at the meetings, that like you just share like what your experiences are. And so you're not going to tell, somebody's not going to go like, well, you need to do this and you need to do that and blah, 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 blah. And don't take, it's not like that at all. It's just, sharing experiences, what's helped people, what they're going through. And then you can kind of just sit there and just take bits by bits, like, pieces by pieces of information and say, oh, okay, that sounds like something that might be helpful. Or, ooh, I do that too. Maybe I should stop doing that, and you just sit there, you kind of just like soak it all in like a sponge. And then you take what resonates with you, you take what's helpful, and you leave the rest. And I cannot tell you those feelings you get when you leave those meetings. It's just like the weight is lifted off of your shoulder. And so with that, I'm going to come in also with the whole like, because again, I've experienced it too. It's like, well, why do I have to go to the meetings? Why do I have to go and get help? I'm not the one that has a problem. I'm not the one that's an addict. They should go to a meeting. They need to get help. They are the ones that have a problem. But step back from that for a moment, and just, again, from what I've said in my previous videos, people with addiction, it does affect the people around them. From my own experience, I know I was under a lot of stress. A lot of stress caused a lot of anxiety. A lot of anxiety and stress combined does take a toll on your health. And so eventually, sometimes people get just as sick internally than, in some cases as the addict. Like the addict's going through so many mental and physical health problems, and then, like we take on the toll of that as well. And sometimes we get just as sick, in a sense. And, we're here to figure out how we can help. All we want to do is help our loved ones. So how can we help? Well, this helps give you the tools to go back and, eliminate all the other things I just like basically said, helps you get your life back. It helps you figure out how you can help your addict. Now this, what I have here is the NarAnon book. I went ahead and purchased this. I think it was about either before or after I had the baby. And I knew it was going to be like a while for me to be able to actually come in and attend an actual sit-in physical meeting again. And so I was going to rely on a lot of the online supports groups that are out there, like the Facebook groups I associated with. There was the conference calls, and so I just wanted something a little extra. I think I spent like $15 for this at the meeting. I'm pretty sure that they have probably some that you could probably rent out from the library. For myself, that money, was so tight. $15, is like basically half a tank of gas in a sense with my car sometimes. And so it was something that I decided just to still make that purchase, and I'm glad I did. So a lot of this is just some readings. It has like day logs that you can, pick it up and say, okay, today is, for instance, like February 23rd. So I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to pull the February 23rd reading and read it out, and then see what resonates, kind of a thing. So that's what this is. That's all I have this for. They do have like pamphlets and flyers and stuff that they can provide at the meetings. Another point I want to kind of go through a little bit is same thing. I had like an open concept when I was looking for a counselor. I was looking for like a therapist for myself and for my family. I accepted the fact that I might not like the first one. Like I was like, you know what, if I don't like it, you know what, there's plenty of others out there. So I had a list. I was going down the list, and fortunately enough, I completely bonded and resonated very well with my first therapist. And so I got lucky in that regard. But yeah, I mean, if you feel like one's not a good fit, and so, I mean, sometimes I've heard people, it takes like 2, 3, 4, 5 different therapists until they find one that they feel comfortable with. And so that is completely fine. And the same goes with these meetings. If you go to one and you're like, you know what, this isn't like, my fit, you can go and try a different one. If you can't find one that's around the same times or the days that work for you, still keep going. Just keep trying it. Because I have had times where it's been great from the first time I've gone to different meetings, and then there's been like little ones where it was kind of a little off a little bit, like the energy seems a little bit different, but I still take so much from it. I'm so thankful that I went. Yeah, so don't discourage, like if you go to one and you're like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like the people, or whatever, or like I don't like the energy, or I don't like the place, I don't like the neighborhood that it's in. Yeah, just keep trying until you find one that settles with you. I remember it was around the holidays. Baby was already born, and again, it was like I was having to rely on my resources to be able to watch the kids so that I can go to these meetings. And there was actually a couple of times where actually I brought the baby when she was a newborn, and not really a newborn, I apologize, like a few months old. And it was completely fine. Like everyone loved, having a little baby in there, and, just perked everyone up and smiling, especially since they saw me since I was pregnant. And so they were all excited to like meet the baby and everything. And she did so well during those meetings. But yeah, around the times when, she's going to get a little more talkative or more mobile, and it got to the point where I couldn't take her, I would have my family watch them so I can go. And I just remember, I think it was actually, I think now thinking back, I think it was when I was still pregnant. And I'm driving to a meeting, and I remember just being so angry. Like just, I've had so many good experiences going to these meetings, and this morning I was so angry. And the reason I was angry was the fact that I did have to go to a meeting. I was in a good space, regarding where I was in this journey experience, with my addict, but I was so frustrated. I was just like, I can't believe this is my life now. I remember having that moment when I was just driving, and I just felt so angry, and I was like, I can't believe this is my life now. I can't believe that I have to sacrifice a Saturday morning to go to a meeting when I don't have a problem. But you do have a, I was like, well, talking to myself on the way, and it's like, well, you do have a problem. Not in the same sense that some people might say, but yeah. So, yeah, I didn't have a problem with like worrying about what people would think if they found out I was going to meetings, or if I had a therapist. I never had those concerns for myself. But I can tell you right now that when people would find out I was going, they were very supportive. Family and friends, they were like, oh, that's great. I'm so glad to hear that you're going. And so it was like awesome. Like that was kind of like reassurance and confirmation from my friends and my family that they're like, okay, she's getting support, she's getting help. Because again, a lot of people don't really know much about addiction, more or less like how to associate with it. And I think that's in our society in general anyways, but that's a whole other topic. But yeah, I would just suggest that you keep going until you find one. The feeling, having those feelings of frustration or anger, you know, like those are completely normal. So don't feel discouraged. You know, just like if someone has an addiction, it doesn't make them a bad person. There's nothing wrong with getting support for ourselves too. And so we are going through a lot as well. So I'm glad that there are these groups or are these meetings out there for that support. And if for me it was like, I mean, it was like domino effect. It was like boom, boom, boom. Like things were happening in our relationship. Things were happening with the family, you know, behaviors and stuff. And then when I found out about his addiction, it was like everything just clicked. And I was like, oh my gosh, all of this makes so much more sense. And then it was like immediately around that time, it was like I was getting support. And so I was like, it was right at the beginning. You know, I was going to the meetings, I was going to a therapist and everything, but it's never too late. So don't feel like, well, I've been dealing with my loved one's addiction for years, decades. You know, it's never too late just to go and get support. You know, it's never too late, and don't ever feel like be ashamed or embarrassed. And just, I mean, the fact that you're just watching this video right now, you are so strong to go out and look for additional support and help. And so you can get through it. You definitely can, and this gives you the tools for sure to get you through that. So some of the tools I mentioned, well, for one, it helped me with the questions that I had that a lot of people couldn't really answer or associate or relate. Dealing with the pain, the anger, even the guilt, you know, all those emotions. But it taught me how to establish, you know, healthy boundaries, to recognize like manipulation, you know, like when dealing with people with, I mean, anyone knows that if anyone dealing with people with addiction, like they're great liars and manipulators. And so it helps you recognize that and ease off from the guilt, dealing with the boundaries. Kind of shows you how to, like, you know, not show you, I'm sorry, but like gives experiences of like how not to enable them. And all these points, I'm planning on doing additional videos to kind of key point these, especially with the self-care. I'm hoping to do a few chapters on those to kind of get more in detail, but I know that this is definitely on the top for support. Yeah, so I'm going to end with the last bit as far as in case if anyone's worried or concerns about it. It's not a fear, blame, religious-based concept. I just want to make that very clear. Like you're not going to go there and they're going to try and like force this belief or this ways about it. You know, like I said, you take what you want, you take what's going to work for you, and then you can leave the rest. And so, you know, one of the things is like, you know, you leave it off. It's the 3 C's. I remember at the very beginning, I loved the 3C concept because it was like the 3 C's in Nar-anon is I didn't cause it. I didn't cause my loved one's addiction. I can't control it. I can't control my loved one's addiction. And I can't cure it. I can't cure my loved one's addiction. And that goes into the very first step where it's like we admit we are powerless over the addict, that our lives have become unmanageable. And so that's basically like the first step. Now, if anyone's familiar with like the 12-step programs like that, the alcoholics or addicts have to, you know, like not have to, I apologize, that are, you know, suggested for them to follow. It's like the very beginning. It's like they have to admit that they are powerless over this disease. They are powerless over this addiction. They have to accept that and then work from there. And so the 3 C's are very nice, especially when dealing with manipulation and enabling and all those other, the guilt, the pain, the anger. It's just accepting and understanding and knowing that you didn't cause it, you can't control it, and you can't cure it. And so, those are like the main beginning, steps to, and this helps you, get there. And yeah, but dealing with like religion or anything, it's like, when they talk about like a higher power, that's whatever higher power that you believe in. It's not saying like you have to believe in God to follow these 12 steps. It's not like that at all. Whatever your higher power is above yourself, if it's like, the universe, if it's Gaia, Buddha, divinity, like whatever, different things out there, so it's not based where it's like, oh, well, you have to believe in this way in order for this to work. No, this is just, again, just support, give you the tools to help you along this road. Does your addict or alcoholic have to be going to these meetings while you go to these meetings? No. But you can be going and getting support and helping yourself. And then that is putting like a good example and putting it, still on them to deal with their own addiction and their own path and their own recovery. Because at the end of the day, it's up to the person that's battling the addiction of whether they are ready to get help. It is up to us to decide of when we're ready to get help ourselves, when we're ready to stay on the right path, live our lives. And I did this especially for my kids. I wanted, their lives don't stop, just because an obstacle or a bump comes in the road. And so I wanted to get the tools so I can also give to them for in the future. So I'm going to end it there. I posted some links about where you can find meetings in your area. I'm going to post those on this description as well. I'm going to try and get some videos out at least once a week. And I will be posting my email. So if anyone wants to reach out, have any questions or support or anything like that, I will be providing that here shortly. So I'm sending again all my love. Know that you are so strong. Take it day by day. And know that you're doing your best. Have a good night. I love you.